Hello, it's Friday, it's 4 o'clock. It's short fuse, as you well know. Hope you're well. Hope you've had a busy week. Got a lot to talk about this week. Remember, you can get in touch with the show. You can use our Twitter, our hashtag, our hash, whatever you want. Comment away, abuse away, particularly later on. We're going to have someone that you can really abuse who'll be coming in for the first time. I've tried not to have them in. Shout out this week to my LinkedIn network. Hello, LinkedIn people, because I put out a LinkedIn post that just basically slagged off all the people that try and sell you loads of crap. They link into you and then they just try and say, oh, would you like a back massage when you have no back? They're the people that we hate, all right? They're the ones that we can't stand, and they link into you to sell something. So that post was actually, frankly, the most successful post I've ever done. So there you go, says a lot. Our theme this week, well, we can talk about caps, but also we can talk about something you definitely need. Glass of water when you're talking, Teresa. And, thanks to Rob, a mint. Not one provided by the Chancellor, but just in case, I've got that nearby. Anyway, enough of Teresa. Let's talk about something else that happened, our top story of the week. And that was an upbeat Greg Clark. Yes. Do you remember him? Our Secretary of State for Energy. He gave a speech, and he gave a speech where he was very upbeat about energy. He said, we're leading the world. We are leading the world. Why? Because he says we're making lots of investment. He cited things like Hinkley, offshore wind, smart meters, as if, and battery tech. Now, that is quite an interesting one because he announced back in July that the UK was going to invest in battery technology, creating this thing called the Faraday Battery Challenge. And he was going on about that and saying that's a positive story to tell. Well, look, my view on this is actually, for once, Clark is right. There is a lot to be said that's good. I think in the time that we've got all this uncertainty around Brexit, we seem to forget that actually a lot of people look at what we're doing here and we're an example. The market is mature. There is competition. Whatever people think, there is competition. You know, you've got investment going on. Businesses are doing stuff. Later on, you'll hear from Johnny, who was at the conference, about how people felt around things. And I don't think that's a bad thing to say the energy sector is, you know, in a good state. How much of that is to do with the government of the day? I'm not too sure. I think a lot of it's to do with actually industry getting on with itself. And we'll be finding out about that, obviously, at our expo, because we'll be talking to the industry to see what they say. But hey, what? Let him have his moment in the sun. He said that it was good. I'm not one to knock him on that. Our next story was this one, which was really interesting. So young Brits back biomass. Yes, they do. According to a survey by the Energy Technologies Institute, 9 out of 10 young people, that are people aged 18 to 24, so George won't be one next week, and Johnny is definitely out of the frame. These people back biomass, shut up Johnny, back biomass tech. Why do they think that? Because they think that bioenergy is a good thing, it comes from a sort of renewable source, it can be used to replace lots of emission, particularly in heat. What is interesting is that, you know, something like this, young people bloody know about it. Why? Who knows about biomass? So it shows that whatever happens, there is a growing sense of knowledge about the way we're changing towards decarbonising fuel and fuel sources. So I think that's an interesting one. And the final story that caught my eye this week was about the virtual power plant market. So this is really interesting. So this story here is saying that globally, around within 6 years, they predict that the virtual power market will be worth £3.4 billion. Now, what does that mean? What does that mean? What's a virtual power market? That doesn't mean VR power stations. It actually means decentralized energy. So things like combined heat and power, wind, solar, this phrase that people use called behind the meter. So what this is saying that as we go towards more and more managed energy, you know, whether you manage it with demand side technology, whether you manage it with your own kind of generation, you're going to have a lot of power there, but not in the way we used to have. So not big, huge power stations, but lots of batteries, lots of factories, people's houses, the internet. So in a way, this is a real big shift of where the market's going. And if it's going to be worth 3.4 billion, which is globally peanuts. Yeah, let's not joke ourselves and say, oh, this is a big shift. But it is a significant enough number to show that this will be the growing pathway. And I think it's one to watch. As I said, Johnny will be here later. He'll be talking a lot about what he did at the conference. But now it's time for Viewpoint. For Whom the Bell Tolls. No, I'm not talking about a famous novel. I'm actually talking about Dong, who have changed their name. Dong changed their name this week to Orsted. Eh? Ooh, exactly. Well, you may have seen the fuss about this. Big stuff for Dong. They've obviously come out of the oil and gas sector. You'll see in this promotional video, they're really flouting this stuff about how they do green energy now, and that's the direction they want to travel in. It's all about kind of, you know, environmentally friendly. So Dong, which used to stand for Danish Oil and Natural Gas, can't be that anymore because they sold off the oil and natural gas. So they've called themselves Orsted. Well, who is Orsted? It's this guy here. His name is Hans Christian Orsted, and he was a Danish physicist from the 19th century. He worked on a variety of experiments based in Denmark and wrote a lot of his findings up. And one of them in 1820 was electromagnetism. Now, you probably know what electromagnetism is, but the simplest thing is, you know, the old plasma balls we see, it's the Tesla coil, you know, electromagnetism is all around. So the idea is that his name is a good one to associate it with kind of a different form of looking at energy, and so Dong have chosen to use Orsted. But did he discover electromagnetism, or was it this signor? Yeah? This guy is Gian Domenico Romangossi, who was an Italian. Actually, he was not even a physicist or a scientist. He was a guy that worked a bit like Einstein, worked as a clerk. He did some sort of studying. He'd worked as a lawyer, but he was someone who was interested in science. Now, he did an experiment 20 years before Orsted in 1804, where he discovered electromagnetism. But why is his name not the one that's associated? Why is Dong not changing its name to, you know, Romangossi? Now, obviously, if he'd been Danish, perhaps they would. But the real truth is, this guy's discovery was ignored by the scientific community. Why? At the time, he was seen as someone who was not in the field. He was Italian for a start. And there was a lot of discrimination about science and who was really at the vanguard of it. So that got me thinking about science and discrimination. Is it really the case that what we think are discoveries by certain people really were? Or is it just through the prism of the people who are telling us that's what it was? So for Romangossi, he was not ever sort of considered the grandfather or the father of electromagnetism. He's been written out in the history books. And that's not the only person. This is my namesake. I wish I was related to him, because then I'd be making a lot of money. No, I wouldn't. But his name was Satyendra Nath Bose. And he worked with this fella. And you know him, Albert Einstein. Now, Bose was basically a physicist and scientist in Calcutta during the time of British rule, who was working on lots of physics and theories around quantum mechanics. He then wrote to Einstein and they got together, and there's actually a field of science called Bose-Einstein, yeah, mechanics. Now, if you're in the scientific field, you'd probably know about it, but most people wouldn't, yeah? This guy was basically, again, recognized only in India, but not internationally. Now, you may have heard of something called the boson, right? And if you've been to somewhere like CERN, you've all seen this thing about a few years ago, the God particle. Here's the video of CERN where they accelerate in this thing called the Large Hadron Collider. And it's all about discovering these particles. And one of them was a very famous particle called the God particle, Higgs boson. Boson named after this guy, Mr. Bose. Now, he published endless papers. He was recognized in the scientific community, but for Satyendra Nath Bose, international recognition in the form of the Nobel Prize didn't happen. He wasn't considered worthy enough. So that's got me thinking, here we have an Italian scientist who discovered electromagnetism. Some debate it because it is difficult to go back, more than 150 years to say. But, there's evidence that he did see what ended up being Ørsted's discovery. Did Ørsted plagiarize it? Was it the fact that he was just not considered because he was important? And then you have an Indian scientist who was pretty much recognized within certain realms, certainly recognized in India, but not recognized globally and internationally. So is scientific discovery, is there a tinge of, I don't know whether you want to call it racism or prejudice? Is it still going on today? Are there scientists working on things who won't be recognized simply because they're from countries that we don't really consider to be that important in the world of science? I don't know. My view is I think some of that is probably still going on, but I'd be interested to hear yours. So get in touch. You can email me. You can get in touch with the Fuse email that's down below. But my view is I think that there is a bit more to this than meets the eye, and I'd be interested to hear from people who think that this is still going on. All right, that's it for that little rant. Now it's time for our Johnny. Are you here?
I'm here and present.
Is he being asked? Is he on screen now? Yeah, good. He's in the right place as well.
Perfect.
Excellent. Why are you wearing a really weird T-shirt again?
We're talking about Italian and Indian there, and there's a Spanish film here, Pan's Labyrinth. Check that one out.
That's really happy hands. All right, now, I sent you this week, and you moaned about having to actually do a day's work up in Manchester. Mm-hmm. How was it?
So we went to the Conservative Party conference. It was actually really interesting. We spoke to everyone there, not everyone there, but a lot of people there, MPs, ministers and party members, about a lot of issues, mainly the energy price cap.
You were busy, but not that busy.
Kind of busy.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah. Anyway, yes, so hopefully the film's playing over my head. I don't know if it is, but anyway, so what did you find out?
So we found out that actually opinion was a lot more divided than I expected on Theresa May's proposed energy price caps.
Which she's now going to do.
Yep. But about half of the people we spoke to actually said that they think, it's a good idea because it's going to make the market fairer for consumers, which I expected. But then there were a surprising amount of people that said it might actually damage competition and they didn't think it was a good idea. So, yeah.
And we'll find out what she's going to do about that anyway. But also, nuclear came up, didn't it? And what else came up that you thought was interesting when you were there?
Well, there was a lot of talk about small modular reactors, so small nuclear power stations that could theoretically be in every town around the country. That's a bit optimistic, I think. But basically, people were saying that they're a great idea because after Brexit, when we needed our energy independence, they offer a cheaper, kind of more public perception-friendly version of big nuclear power stations.
Yeah, and what else did you do?
What else did we do? We looked at the importance of digitisation across industry and homes. So by computerising things in the house, you can basically optimise stuff to use the least amount of energy and get the most out of it. So.
What do you think of the Tories and the energy side? Because obviously, as I said at the beginning of the show, Greg Clark was banging on about how great it is. Did you feel that they actually considered energy important? There were quite a few events at the Fringe, weren't there?
Yeah, there were energy events all through the day, so we actually had to decide, at certain points there'd be 3 talks on all about energy at the same time, so we had to pick the most interesting one. But yeah, there was actually a lot of energy stuff going on all day. Direction-wise,
where do you think they're going?
Where are they going? I'm not sure. They seem divided from what I saw, so... Yeah.
Funny, that's a good one. Right, and now the last one that I think you've done this week, you found God, haven't you?
Yep, I found God today. At lunchtime.
It's about time you did.
Yeah. There's a story that I found really interesting, which is today the biggest group of Catholic organisations so far in one go. That's 40 churches, banks and universities that are all affiliated with Catholicism, have actually stepped away from fossil fuels because they say it's their moral and financial imperative. So not sure which one's the bigger factor there. But yeah, they've actually all selling their investments in those companies and going green.
We've found this quite a lot. We've had universities divesting away. Is it just a trend because they think it's the right thing to do, or do you actually think there's a concern amongst them that this is important. I think it's a trend myself, but I don't know.
I think it's actually they're de-risking financially now. So,
Get you.
So we're going green. It's unstoppable, and they're kind of hopping on a bandwagon while it's still.
Your dad would be
they
proud
can
of
still
that.
look good for
De-risking.
doing so.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, and what else is happening, Johnny? You're working on...
We are working all week, and you can contact us on stories@energylivenews.com.
Did you get it right? Did you get it right this time? Yes?
right.
Did you get it right? Hoorah. Thank you, Johnny.
That's
Bugger
all
off.
right. See you later.
Right, any shout-outs, Freddie? Is there anyone...
No, none today.
None today? Not even Corcoran?
No.
Corcoran's not even watching?
No.
Corcoran, you told me you were going to be watching in, and you thought it was something hub, but it's not, mate. It's not that site. Anyway, I've been trying to avoid him for 5 weeks, but unfortunately this week we have to bring him on. So it is with great dismay. Yeah, exactly. Jeff Curran, will you please make an appearance, and delicately, please. Here we go. Oh my God, don't take the microphone. Hello, Jeff, how are you?
Why do I feel like the pantomime villain? I think it's very unfair. Christmas has not come yet.
Now, allegedly, you have personality.
No, but thankfully, lots of people in the energy industry do have. You may well be aware we've been sending out lots of stuff on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on emails. You're probably fed up by it. The reason we do it is we do want you to nominate your ELN Personality of the Year. We also want you to enter the awards. So, get your fingers tapping away, call us. We don't mind, just let us know. The deadline is actually on Monday. That gives you plenty of time, though. There's Saturday, Sunday, and Monday to write those award
We've had quite a
entries.
few entries already.
Oh no, we've had lots of entries. We've had lots of people being nominated. There are lots of entries coming through, but we want to give everyone that chance. You know, we keep saying, people say energy has no personalities. It's a load of rubbish. There are lots of personalities, lots of great people. Energy is an amazing field to be in. You know, you talked about Ørsted, you talked about your namesake. Unfortunately, you're in the industry now. It's a bit of a shame. A bit like me, really. So look, we want to make sure that, we get the right people. And, it's a celebration of the people in the industry.
And it's in a great venue, the Bond in Motion Museum.
You're not meant to say that.
It is.
Right,
It's
so
there.
right, let me give you the proper. It is the London Film Museum in Covent Garden.
It is.
Please make sure that you enter. If you get shortlisted, you will get free tickets. The entries are free as well.
Dressed as James Bond.
Dress as James
Goldfinger.
Bond. I'd like to
Jaws.
Goldfinger you if you do not shut up.
Who else? You could come as Pussy Galore. I mean, there's a variety of things that could be done, couldn't there?
The good news is that we're going to be announcing the shortlist at Energy Live Expo, the 2nd of November. So again, if you're an energy end user, you want to come to this event, there is lots of content, lots of killer content, particularly how artificial intelligence will kill energy brokers. Make sure you get there. If you're an end user, you come for nothing, okay? The delegate passes are free. We have lots of sponsors and they've been able to help us to do that. So just make sure you register with freddie.rand@energylivenews.com. It should be carrot@energylivenews.com, but it's freddie.rand.
We're going to get done for all our ginger jokes.
I know,
It's
but look, come on, you're going to pick on somebody. I'm an inherent Irish racist, so I've got to pick on the
There
Jewish.
we go. The truth is there. We know about that science. Thank you very much. He's off. Okay, so just to reiterate what he said, don't miss out on ELPA, the Energy Live Personality Awards, because they are going to be a cracking party. We are going to celebrate what we think, and in all seriousness, Jeff's right, there are lots of great characters who are in the energy sector. Go onto the website. You can enter a variety of categories. There's Tech Genius, there's Energy Wizard, there's Young Gun, there's 24/7 Hero. There's loads and loads of categories out there, but more importantly, it's all about recognizing people that you work with, yourself even. Put yourself forward. Who cares? Do it. Because we think, and what we've had as an ethos at Energy Live News, is that this sector has a lot to celebrate, and let's do that on December the 7th. Well, that's it for this week. Hopefully you have enjoyed the show. Give me your views on the racists that are out there, apart from Jeff, of course, and we shall see you all next week, Friday at 4.